Her dangerous secret changed everything. The saloon girl wasn't who he thought. The sun was beginning its slow descent over the jagged horizon of Red Mesa, painting the desert in shades of gold and burnt orange. The wind blew in soft whispers across the sand dunes, carrying with it the smell of hot metal and distant spices from the outlying settlements. In the distance, a lone figure approached, a man on a small hoverbike, kicking up faint clouds of rust-colored dust. Jace Rourke was not a man who usually stopped in small towns. He had traveled across half a dozen planets, chasing bounties, debts, and sometimes nothing at all. Red Mesa had never been on his map. But today, tired of endless star highways and cold nights under artificial lights, he felt the pull of something quieter, something that whispered of rest, even if only for a short while. The town of Silver Spur was small, built around a single main street and a cluster of low-slung buildings. The saloon, the Starry Spur, stood at its center, wooden beams painted in fading white, a sign swinging lazily with the breeze. Its name glowed faintly under solar-powered lanterns, promising warmth, company, and perhaps a hint of adventure. Jace parked his hoverbike outside, letting it settle on its magnetic stabilizers. He ran a hand over his stubbled jaw and adjusted the wide-brimmed hat that had protected him from sun, rain, and dust storms more times than he cared to count. With a small sigh, he pushed open the saloon doors. The sound inside was comforting, a low hum of conversation, the clinking of glasses, and soft music that seemed almost out of place for such a remote town. Most of the patrons were locals, miners, traders, and a few wandering travelers, but it was her who caught Jace's attention immediately. Lyra moved with a grace that seemed effortless. She served drinks with a quiet smile, her eyes scanning the room as if she were aware of everything that happened in the saloon and beyond. She was not flashy, not loud, and yet she drew attention without even trying. Her dark hair fell just past her shoulders, catching the light of the lanterns in soft glimmers. Her uniform, simple but well-kept, spoke of elegance in a place that was otherwise rough and practical. Jace found himself sliding onto a stool at the bar, pretending to be interested in the menu. "Synth coffee," he said quietly, and Lyra nodded, already reaching for the steaming pot. "You're not from around here," she said, her voice soft but confident, like she could see everything without looking. "I could say the same about you," Jace replied, careful not to show how curious he was. Most people in small towns didn't talk much, and strangers were treated with a cautious eye. Lyra smiled faintly, placing the steaming cup in front of him. "Silver Spur is quiet," she said. "Most folks keep to themselves. But something tells me you're not the type to just drink your coffee and vanish." Jace raised an eyebrow, impressed despite himself. "You have a way of knowing things," he said. "It's part of the job," she said, turning to tend another table, leaving a faint trail of perfume and intrigue behind her. He watched her as he sipped his coffee. There was something unusual about the way she moved, the way she watched people, not just the usual saloon charm. It was intelligence, careful and deliberate. She noticed everything, and nothing seemed to escape her attention. The evening passed in quiet observation. Jace chatted briefly with a few locals, learning that Silver Spur was mostly a stopover for traders and travelers heading deeper into the desert. Nothing seemed dangerous here, nothing that would cause a man like him to pause. Yet something about Lyra made him stay. Later, as the saloon's music played softly, a small robotic courier hovered near the door. Its lights blinked in a sequence that only one person seemed to notice. Lyra's hand moved under the counter, retrieving a small, sealed package before the robot could drop it off. Jace saw the motion but didn't comment. He had a habit of observing first, asking questions later. Curiosity gnawed at him. Who was this woman, and why was she so careful with what looked like a simple data packet? He wanted to ask, but the right moment never came. Every time he opened his mouth, she was already moving, already talking to someone else, already disappearing behind another table. When the saloon began to empty and the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in deep purple and crimson, Jace stepped outside for a moment. The desert stretched endlessly, the stars beginning to pierce the twilight. The air smelled of metal, sand, and something faintly sweet, the scent of wild desert flowers carried from somewhere far off. And then he saw it. Lyra was at the edge of the town, kneeling beside a small portable holographic projector. She tapped a few buttons, and a glowing map of star systems sprang to life. Lines connected distant planets, some marked with strange symbols. One of the points was Red Mesa, a location that had long been forgotten in the official charts, erased from all public records. Jace's heart skipped a beat. This was no ordinary saloon girl. She was guarding something important. And somehow she had brought it here, right under the noses of everyone in Silver Spur. The next morning he watched her from a distance. Lyra moved among the town with ease, serving drinks, chatting politely with patrons, and laughing softly at jokes, but her eyes never stayed on one thing too long. She was aware of every sound, every movement, and when she thought no one was watching, she slipped a small device into her pocket, checked the perimeter of the town, and then returned to her work as if nothing had happened. Jace's curiosity became obsession. He knew he shouldn't pry, shouldn't get involved, but he couldn't turn away. There was a story here, something bigger than Silver Spur, bigger than Red Mesa, and somehow he knew that if he learned the truth about Lyra, his life would never be the same. By evening, he finally spoke to her. "You're hiding something," he said quietly as she poured a drink for another patron. Lyra's eyes met his, calm but unreadable. "Maybe," she said with the faintest hint of a smile, "but some things aren't meant to be uncovered, at least not by strangers." "Maybe I'm not a stranger," Jace said, leaning on the bar. "Maybe I'm someone who could help." She paused, as if considering. "Help?" she asked. "Do you even know what you're talking about?" "Not yet," he admitted. "But I intend to find out." The air between them held a quiet tension, like the calm before a storm. Neither moved, neither spoke, for a long moment. And then Lyra simply nodded once, a gesture that felt both like acceptance and warning. Jace left the saloon that night with more questions than answers. Who was she really? Why was she here? And most importantly, what secret could be so dangerous that it would change everything if anyone discovered it? He didn't know it yet, but his life on Red Mesa was about to become far more complicated than he could have imagined. And it all began with a simple cup of synth coffee, a mysterious saloon girl, and a secret that glowed faintly in the light of a desert sunset. As he rode back to his small rented room at the edge of town, the wind picked up, carrying a soft, almost musical hum across the sands. Jace couldn't place it, but something about it felt like a warning and an invitation. Lyra's secret was waiting, and he was going to find it. The next morning, the sun rose over Red Mesa like a glowing coin tipping into the sky. Silver Spur stirred quietly, the same old rhythm of traders, travelers, and desert wind. But for Jace Rourke, nothing felt the same. The night before, he had seen Lyra with the holographic map, glimpsed the faint glow of secrets she carried. He could not stop thinking about it. After a quick breakfast at a small diner near the edge of town, he wandered back toward the Starry Spur Saloon. He did not know why he was drawn to her. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe caution, maybe the sense that the quiet life he had always chased was not meant for him. Whatever it was, he could not stay away. Inside the saloon, Lyra moved as if she had not noticed him yet, serving drinks and chatting politely with the few patrons. But when she looked up and saw him leaning against the bar, her calm expression faltered for the tiniest fraction of a second. It was enough. "You're early," she said, placing a steaming cup of synth coffee in front of him. Or maybe I should say, persistent. "Curiosity is persistent," Jace said with a small smile. "And curiosity brought me back." Lyra raised an eyebrow but said nothing, simply turning to attend to another table. Jace watched her, careful not to seem obvious. He needed answers, but he also needed patience. As the day passed, he noticed strange movements around the town. Small robotic drones hovered briefly over rooftops, their lenses glinting in the sunlight. They were not aggressive, but their presence felt deliberate, almost like someone, or something, was keeping track of the town's activity. Jace had seen enough of the galaxy to know when someone was being watched. And he knew Lyra was aware too. She moved with quiet precision, guiding patrons to empty tables, making polite conversation, all while subtly checking the doors and streets. By late afternoon, Jace decided to follow her. He kept a careful distance, staying behind walls and crates as Lyra exited the saloon and walked toward the edge of the town. She was not alone for long. A small group of desert nomads approached, carrying equipment and supplies. Lyra greeted them with a soft smile, but her eyes were sharp, scanning the surroundings. She spoke briefly in a language Jace did not recognize, exchanging nods and gestures that seemed like instructions. The nomads unpacked small boxes, adjusting devices that hummed faintly with energy. Jace stayed hidden, heart racing. He did not understand what he was seeing, but it was clear. Lyra was not just a saloon girl. She was part of something larger, something careful and deliberate. He could feel the weight of responsibility in her movements, the quiet command she had over the small group. As night fell, Lyra returned to Silver Spur, walking calmly down the main street. Jace approached carefully, deciding it was time to ask the questions he had avoided. "You're hiding something big," he said quietly as he fell into step beside her. "I've seen enough today. Those people, what are they doing?" Lyra did not look at him immediately. Instead, she gazed at the stars, their soft light reflecting off the dust in the air. "It's complicated," she said slowly. "Not everything is meant to be shared, especially with strangers." "I'm not just a stranger," Jace said firmly. "I can help. If someone is watching you or trying to find you, I can make sure they don't succeed." She finally turned to him, her dark eyes serious but not unkind. "You think it's simple," she said. "It's not about watching or hiding. It's about responsibility. About protecting something that could change everything if it falls into the wrong hands." "Then let me help you protect it," Jace said, his voice calm but determined. "I don't care about the danger. I care about doing the right thing." For a moment, Lyra studied him. And then she nodded just slightly, as if making a decision she had long avoided. "Fine," she said. "But there are rules. You follow me, you do exactly as I say. No questions, no sudden moves, and you keep your eyes open. Always." Jace agreed without hesitation. They left Silver Spur under the cover of night, stepping carefully into the desert. The sand was cool under their feet, and the twin moons cast soft light across the dunes. The town behind them faded, quiet and unaware of the secret moving through its streets. As they walked, Lyra explained what she could. She carried a small sealed data chip, a device containing coordinates to ancient star systems and lost technology, something so powerful that many would use it for control or profit if they discovered it. Her mission was to keep it safe and to prevent it from being misused. Jace listened carefully, absorbing every word. It was a story larger than anything he had ever imagined. He had traveled through planets filled with danger and opportunity, but this felt different. This was not about money or fame or even survival. This was about trust and about choices that could affect countless lives. The desert night was quiet but not peaceful. Strange glowing plants dotted the dunes, illuminating their path faintly. Every now and then, a small creature would scurry across the sand, its eyes reflecting moonlight. Lyra moved carefully, guiding Jace through narrow paths between dunes and rocks. At one point, a soft hum filled the air, a drone scanning the area. Lyra signaled for Jace to stay behind a rock. She moved silently, checking the drone's sensors and finding a blind spot. Then, with a small gesture, she led him past the device, keeping them both safe. Jace realized that he had underestimated her. She was smart, resourceful, and careful. He had expected charm and secrecy, but not this level of precision and awareness. Hours passed as they moved deeper into the desert. The dunes shifted, and the wind carried whispers that sounded almost like voices. Jace felt a mixture of excitement and unease. He had faced dangerous situations before, but never with such quiet intensity. Finally, they reached a small plateau overlooking a valley filled with unusual rock formations. Lyra stopped, taking a deep breath. She looked at Jace, her face illuminated by the soft glow of the twin moons. "This is where we camp for the night," she said. "Tomorrow, we continue to the coordinates. There are others who want what I carry, and we cannot let them find us." Jace nodded, understanding the seriousness in her voice. "Then we keep moving, step by step," he said. As they settled under a blanket of stars, Lyra prepared a small meal from compact rations. Jace watched her, noticing the quiet confidence she carried even in such harsh conditions. It was clear that she had been doing this for a long time, protecting secrets, avoiding danger, and staying one step ahead of anyone who might follow. "What do you think about all this?" Lyra asked after a while, her eyes on the stars. "I think," Jace said slowly, "that I've just realized how small Silver Spur really is, and how big the universe is, and how lucky I am to be here." Lyra smiled faintly, a smile that was more relief than happiness. "You are brave," she said softly. "Or maybe foolish. I cannot tell yet." "Maybe a little of both," Jace replied, shrugging. They laughed quietly, the sound carried away by the wind. For a moment, the desert felt less empty, less silent. For the first time, Jace felt that he belonged somewhere, even if only for a night. As sleep approached, Lyra checked the surroundings one last time, her eyes scanning the horizon and the night sky. "We cannot underestimate anyone," she said quietly, "not even those who seem harmless." Jace nodded, feeling the weight of her words. The desert was vast, the journey ahead uncertain, and the secret she carried was dangerous, but not in a way that involved weapons or threats. The danger was in knowledge, and power in the choices people made when they sought it. Under the twin moons, the two of them rested, preparing for a journey that would take them farther than either had expected. Lyra's secret was no longer just hers. It was shared now, even if just a little, with Jace. And in the quiet desert night, a bond began to form, fragile but undeniable, like the first shoots of green in a harsh, barren land. Jace did not know what tomorrow would bring. He only knew that he could not turn back. Lyra's world, her secret, and the vast unknown of the stars had already pulled him in, and he was ready to face it, step by step, dune by dune, secret by secret. The first light of dawn crept over Red Mesa, painting the desert in pale gold and soft pink. Jace Rourke awoke to the sound of wind whispering through the rocks and the faint hum of distant desert creatures. He rubbed his eyes and looked at Lyra. She was already awake, sitting quietly on a flat rock, examining the data chip she carried. "You never stop, do you?" Jace said, stretching and yawning. "I have to keep watch," Lyra replied calmly, not looking at him. "This journey is far from simple. Every step matters, and one mistake could ruin everything." Jace nodded, understanding more than he let on. He had been in dangerous situations before, but none like this. This was a quiet danger, one measured in secrets, knowledge, and trust, not in weapons or brute force. After a simple breakfast of dried fruit and energy bars, they packed their small camp and continued their trek through the desert. The landscape was rough, filled with jagged cliffs, narrow canyons, and strange rock formations that cast long shadows in the morning sun. Lyra led the way, her movements sure and deliberate. She paused occasionally, scanning the horizon or checking small devices she carried, ensuring that no one was following. Jace kept close, learning from her methods, realizing that survival in this desert required observation, patience, and a sharp mind. Hours passed in silence, broken only by the wind and the occasional call of a desert bird. Jace had questions, of course, about the data chip, the ancient star systems, and the people who wanted to find Lyra. But he held back, waiting for the right moment to ask. Finally, as they rested near a narrow canyon, Jace spoke. "Lyra, why me? Why show me this? You could have left me behind in Silver Spur." Lyra looked at him, her eyes serious. "Because I can tell you are different. You see things others do not. You notice, you observe, you think before acting. And most importantly, you care." Not many people would choose to follow, knowing nothing except the danger. Jay shrugged. "I'm not sure I'm brave. Maybe just stubborn." She smiled faintly. Sometimes stubbornness is exactly what's needed. As they continued their journey, the desert grew more unpredictable. The wind picked up and small storms of red dust swirled around them. Rocks shifted underfoot and the terrain became uneven. But Lyra moved with confidence, navigating paths that seemed impassable. Jace followed, learning to trust her instincts completely. By midday, they reached a plateau overlooking a valley filled with strange glowing plants. The light was soft and eerie, casting long shadows across the sand. Lyra stopped, crouching beside a small device. "This is where it gets tricky," she said. "The data chip leads to an ancient starship, long forgotten, but the path is not easy. Many have tried to find it and failed." Jace leaned closer, curiosity burning in his chest. "What do you mean? Why would anyone want it?" "Because it can change everything," Lyra replied. "The technology in that ship is far beyond what most civilizations have today. Whoever controls it could travel to distant stars in ways no one else can. It's not dangerous by itself, but in the wrong hands, it could be." Jace nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of the situation. This was bigger than Silver Spur, bigger than Red Mesa. This was about choices, responsibility, and trust. They moved carefully through the valley, avoiding the glowing plants that reacted to their presence with faint pulses of light. Every step had to be deliberate. Every movement was measured. Lyra's focus never wavered. Jace began to understand why she had remained a mystery in Silver Spur. She carried not just a secret, but a burden. As the sun reached its highest point, they arrived at a narrow canyon. The entrance was blocked by a series of natural rock formations, creating a maze-like passage. Lyra paused, studying the formations and consulting the device she carried. "This is the test," she said quietly. "The ship is on the other side, but only those who are careful, patient, and clever enough can reach it. Others get lost, or worse, leave behind clues for people who should not find them." Jace took a deep breath. "Then we move carefully, together." They entered the canyon, moving slowly and deliberately. The walls rose high above them, casting deep shadows. The air was warm and dry, carrying the faint scent of minerals and desert plants. Every step echoed softly, reminding them how quiet and isolated they were. Hours passed as they navigated the maze-like canyon. Jace noticed Lyra's movements were precise, almost rhythmic. She paused at intersections, scanning the walls, the ground, even the air for anything that might indicate a hidden danger. He began to understand that this was not just a physical journey, it was mental. Every decision mattered, every choice could lead to success or failure. At one point, Jace stumbled on a loose rock, and a faint chime sounded from Lyra's device. She turned quickly, placing a hand on his shoulder.
Careful, she said.
This canyon reacts to movement. Not literally, but the sensors in my device can detect mistakes. We must stay focused. Jace nodded, more alert than ever. He realized that Lyra's life had been a careful balance of observation, strategy, and trust. And now he was part of that balance. Finally, as the sun began its slow descent toward the horizon, they reached a small clearing. In the center, partially buried in sand and rock, was the ancient starship. Its surface gleamed faintly under the fading light, covered in patterns and markings from a civilization long forgotten. Lyra approached it cautiously, her eyes scanning every detail. She ran her fingers over the hull, tracing the lines of the craft. "It's beautiful," she whispered, "and it's ours to protect." Jace stepped closer, awed by the sheer size and elegance of the starship. "How does it work?" he asked. "That's part of the secret," Lyra said. "It's not just a ship. It's a way to travel across galaxies in ways no one else can. But it can only be used by those who understand responsibility, trust, and balance. That's why it was hidden, and that's why I protect it." Jace looked at her, realizing that her secret was not about hiding knowledge from the world, but about protecting it. She was a guardian, a keeper of something that could change the course of history. They spent the night near the ship, resting under the stars. Lyra explained how the ship worked in simple terms, and Jace listened carefully. He felt a sense of awe and responsibility settle over him. This was more than adventure, it was a test of character. As they watched the twin moons rise over the desert, Lyra turned to him. "Tomorrow, we continue. We must ensure no one follows us and no one discovers this place. The journey is not over. And the choices we make will matter more than you realize." Jace nodded. "I understand."
"And I trust you."
Lyra's eyes softened, a rare smile appearing. "Good. That trust is everything. Without it, even the best plans fail." The desert night was calm, the wind carrying faint whispers through the rocks. Jace felt a sense of peace, knowing that he was part of something greater than himself. The secret they protected was not just hers, it was now theirs, shared between two people bound by trust, courage, and quiet determination. As sleep claimed them, Jace thought of Silver Spur, the saloon, and the moment he had first seen Lyra. Nothing would ever be the same. He had crossed a line from ordinary life into a world of secrets, choices, and responsibility. And he would not turn back, because the journey was far from over. The starship awaited, and with it, the future of countless worlds. And Jace and Lyra would face it together, step by careful step. The morning sun rose slowly over Red Mesa, casting soft light across the desert and illuminating the ancient starship in the clearing. The ship gleamed faintly, its surface covered in strange markings and smooth lines, as if it had been designed by a civilization far ahead of anything Jace had ever seen. Jace and Lyra prepared for the day carefully. She checked the data chip, verifying its security. Every step mattered. Today, they would ensure the ship was safe from anyone who might follow them or stumble upon its location. "You ready?" Lyra asked, her eyes scanning the horizon. "As ready as I'll ever be," Jace replied, adjusting the strap of his pack. They moved closer to the starship, their steps slow and deliberate. Lyra touched the hull gently, running her fingers over the engraved symbols. "This ship is more than just a vehicle," she said quietly. "It carries knowledge, ideas, possibilities that could change how civilizations travel and communicate. And it cannot fall into the wrong hands." Jace nodded. "And that's why you've been hiding it all this time." "Yes," she said. "Not because I wanted to keep it from people, but because the universe isn't ready for it. Not yet." He looked at her thoughtfully. "And now you're trusting me. That's a big risk." Lyra smiled faintly. "I have to. You've proven you can follow, observe, and act carefully. And more importantly, you care. That makes a difference." For the next few hours, they worked together to camouflage the starship. Lyra used devices that created faint light reflections and holographic illusions to make the ship appear like a natural rock formation. Jace helped carry equipment, setting up small markers to detect movement and alert them if anyone came close. The work was delicate, precise, and quiet. By noon, the starship was hidden almost perfectly. From a distance, it looked like nothing more than a cluster of rocks and sand. Only someone who knew exactly what to look for, or who had a device like Lyra's, could locate it. They sat down near a small rock formation to rest, the desert heat warming their skin. Jace took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the journey settle around him. "So, what happens now?" he asked. "Now," Lyra said, "we wait, and we make a choice." Jace frowned. "A choice?" She nodded. "The starship is not just a secret, it's a responsibility. We could leave it here, hidden, and walk away. Or we could use it to explore, to learn, to ensure it benefits others without causing harm. That's the high-risk choice. And it's up to us to decide." Jace thought for a moment. He had traveled across many planets, seen wonders and dangers, but he had never felt responsibility like this. The choice was enormous. He could walk away, return to Silver Spur, and live a simpler life. Or he could embrace the unknown, step into a future that was uncertain but full of possibilities. He looked at Lyra. She was waiting for his answer, calm and steady, her dark eyes reflecting the desert sun. "I choose the unknown," he said finally. "I want to be part of this, to help, to protect, and to learn." Lyra's face softened into a small, genuine smile. "Good," she said, "because we cannot do this alone." The rest of the day was spent preparing the ship for a test. Lyra showed Jace the basic controls, the holographic displays, and the simple interface designed for those who understood responsibility and balance. The starship hummed faintly, responding to their movements and commands. It was clear that this was no ordinary craft. It was intelligent, aware, in a quiet way, and entirely designed for careful, thoughtful use. By evening, the twin moons of Red Mesa rose over the desert, casting pale light across the landscape. Jace and Lyra climbed to a small ridge to observe the starship. It gleamed softly, almost like it recognized them as its guardians. "You know," Jace said, "I never imagined I'd be here, watching a starship hidden in the desert, learning secrets that could change the universe." Lyra laughed softly. "Most people never see this side of the galaxy, and most people are not meant to. That's why it has remained hidden for centuries." They spent the night under the stars, talking quietly about possibilities, about responsibility, and about trust. Jace realized that Lyra's secret was not just a secret, it was a way of life, a guiding principle that shaped every decision she had ever made. And now, he was part of it. The next morning, a faint signal appeared on Lyra's device. She studied it carefully, her expression calm but focused. "It's not a threat," she said, "but someone is searching. Not here yet, but soon. We need to make a choice. Move the ship, or stay hidden and continue observing." Jace considered it. "We can't just wait. We've come too far to let fear stop us." Lyra nodded. "Agreed. But we move carefully. We take only what we need and leave no trace. Every action matters." They carefully prepared the ship for relocation. Lyra activated the engines, and the starship lifted slowly from the desert floor. Holographic camouflage projected the surrounding rocks and sand, hiding the ship from view. Jace marveled at the technology, the quiet power, and the elegance of the craft. As they lifted into the sky, the desert stretched below them, silent and vast. Silver Spur was far behind now, and Red Mesa's jagged landscape seemed almost magical from above. Jace realized that life had changed irreversibly. "Where to first?" he asked. "To explore," Lyra replied. "To learn, to protect, and to ensure this knowledge is used for good, not selfish gain." The starship moved smoothly through the desert air, and then, with a faint shimmer, it shot upward, leaving Red Mesa behind. Stars stretched out before them, distant planets and systems waiting to be explored. Jace felt a thrill he had never known, the kind of excitement that comes from stepping into the unknown, fully aware of responsibility and ready to embrace it. Days passed as they traveled through distant star systems. Lyra taught Jace how to read star maps, interpret signals, and understand the balance of technology and ethics. They discovered abandoned colonies, hidden knowledge, and quiet worlds untouched by time. Every new place taught them something. About the universe, about responsibility, and about themselves. Jace realized that Lyra's secret was not just hers, it had become theirs, shared and protected by trust and care, and in the process he had learned that adventure was not just about action. It was about choices, understanding, and quiet courage. One evening, as they observed a glowing nebula from the ship's observation deck, Lyra turned to Jace. "You've changed," she said softly. He smiled. "I guess I have. You've changed me too. I didn't know I could care so much about something bigger than myself." "And you will continue to learn," Lyra said. "Because this secret, this responsibility, is more than a mission. It's a journey. And journeys are never truly over." Jace nodded, feeling a calm certainty he had never known before. The universe stretched endlessly before them, full of mystery, possibility, and wonder. And for the first time, he knew he was exactly where he was meant to be. They set a course for the nearest hidden world marked on the data chip, ready to continue their exploration, learning, and guardianship. The starship moved silently through the stars, carrying its 2 passengers toward a future unknown, bright, and full of promise. As the twin moons of Red Mesa disappeared behind them, Jace thought of the small saloon, the quiet town, and the moment he first met Lyra. Everything had changed: his life, his purpose, and his understanding of the universe. Her dangerous secret had indeed changed everything, but it had also created new beginnings, endless possibilities, and a bond that would guide them through countless stars. And so, under new suns and distant constellations, their story continued. 2 guardians of knowledge, explorers of worlds, and keepers of secrets that would shape the future. The desert and the saloon were far behind now, but the lessons, trust, and courage they had learned there would remain with them, because some secrets, when shared with the right person, do not destroy. They illuminate. And Jace and Lyra had found both each other and the stars.